Shane and today we have on our show Benedict Beaumont. Did I say that correctly?
You certainly did.
Okay, so we're going to do something a little different right now, where we're going to start with some breath work. So Benedict, if you want to take it away on this.
Definitely. So one of the things that I often find when I speak to people is that they get very distracted. And in fact, I get distracted as well. You know, I started thinking about what am I going to eat for dinner that evening, or what's on TV. And so I really like to just do a really simple exercise just to kind of completely bring me and the person I'm with into presence. And that kind of works whether I'm doing it on Zoom or in person. And it's strange and it sounds so simple, but it is so effective. So what I'd just like to do is if we just take a few breaths together before we start with the interview. Is that okay?
Yes, perfect. Let's do it.
And if you're listening along to this on the podcast, I really encourage you to just stop and be still for a moment and just take some breaths and breathe along with us, and maybe really try and feel our energy and connect with us as well. Okay. Let's take some breaths. Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, no, that honestly, that helped kind of just bring it down just a little bit. So
it really does. It's such a simple practice, but it is so profound, just taking breaths with someone.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think because I'm a very fast-paced person, I tend to move and talk really quickly. So kind of like zenning out and being calm, that's something I would love to implement more into my daily life. So definitely thank you for that. If you want to tell us about, your work, how you got started, wherever you want to start, just tell us about you.
Okay, well, I'll start with me. So I'm a breathwork facilitator, which even when I say that, I kind of think to myself, a breathwork facilitator? I mean, really, who needs a breathwork facilitator? We all know how to breathe. It's something we do every single day, or every single moment of every single day. But it's one of those things we take for granted. You know, we do it every second, and therefore we don't think about it. But actually, our breath is one of the most powerful and profound tools that we have at our disposal for healing and transformation. I was in my kind of mid-40s when I discovered breathwork. I'd already been doing yoga for 15 years by that point. I'd already been studying and practicing Buddhist meditation for about 7 or 8 years. And I kind of felt that I was pretty enlightened, and I kind of knew where I was going, and I knew how my mission in life, and I felt pretty good about everything. And then I discovered breathwork by chance in Bali, in a small community called Ubud, which is one of the great kind of alternative spiritual centers in the world. So there's so much yoga there, and esoteric kind of healing modalities. And I got invited to a session, and it's so powerful and profound that within 5 breaths, I went into a place of deep stillness, deep healing, and deep transformation anywhere else I'd ever been to before. And it was with just a simple breathing technique that I got this. And I kind of knew at that point, okay, I better train how to do this. I better explore doing this, because it had such a profound effect on my life. I knew that it would have a profound effect on other people as well.
Wow, that sounds amazing, especially to have the opportunity to learn all this in Bali, which I can only imagine was just a beautiful, beautiful place to be, and really just put you in that mindset and that mode. So that's wonderful. So with all that being said, so breath work, yeah, it's just like you said, like we do this every day, and it's a tool, but I can only speak for myself. Because I have anxiety, and I tend to hold my breath without even thinking about it. And it's funny because you think, okay, breathing should be a very simple thing. We do it all the time. but I mean, is that a common thing that people do? They tend to just kind of tighten up and they don't like, I didn't know if that was like, is that just me or do a lot of people do that?
No, that really is a very common thing when we kind of put in a stressful situation, when we're feeling anxious or overwhelmed. The tendency of the body is to freeze, and our breath freezes as well. And so that kind of like fear or that anxiety, or even sometimes that anger, because we can get frozen with all sorts of emotions, kind of get locks in our body. And now when we do conscious breath work, which is mainly what I facilitate, I do teach other types of breath work as well, we get a chance to really release that kind of energy that's kind of locked up and stored in our body. Now, often I'll get clients with me who do suffer from things like anxiety or overwhelm or fear. And there's also, as well as conscious breath work or conscious connected breath work, which is a really powerful technique, there's all sorts of other techniques that I teach and that I use that are really useful for people to just pull out as a little tool that they have in their back pocket if they are feeling overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that, you know, breath work can really help you in so many different ways. And I guess like with the business aspect of this, what kind of clients do you usually see? Like what's a common theme that you notice that most people struggle with and how their breathing is affected?
That's a really interesting question. And really, breath work is, I'm not going to say it's a cure for any ill, and it will have, I'm not going to.
Oh, your mic is muted. Oh, no worries.
So I can say that breath work is kind of a miracle cure, but it is appropriate for so many different things, for so many, almost everyone, and for so many different kind of um, reasons that people might have. So from anxiety is one, physical healing is another, releasing trauma, releasing grief. And the reason that breathwork is so powerful is almost nothing to do with the breathwork itself. It's to do with our bodies. And
Gotcha.
my belief is, and it's on the first page of my website, on my manifesto, that our bodies are very, very wise, and they know what they need to do to heal and transform at any particular time. But the thing is, we don't really listen to our bodies very much. We're off doing
We don't.
different things. No, we don't. We're
No.
watching Netflix or watching, in my case, soccer, or we're, worrying about our parents or our children, or the news that's on, or we're distracting ourselves. Now, when we do a breath work, when we do a conscious breath work, and by this I mean something specific, and usually it's a 30-minute or an hour session of breathing in a particular style, we're giving ourselves the space and the time to really connect in with our body and the wisdom that's in there. But we're also giving ourselves, our bodies, a huge amount of energy, because in this particular style, conscious breath work, it's like we're flooding our system with air and oxygen and life force, prana, if you like, and then our bodies do something with that. So for some people, it may just be physical healing. It may be, because we're super oxygenating our blood. So it may be some kind of physical healing or rejuvenation that's going on, but it may be something more subtle. It may be releasing some emotional trauma that's stored in the body. It may be seeing solutions to problems, some mental clarity, or it may be even a spiritual experience. Now, breathwork is non-denominational, so there's no belief system around it. It doesn't matter if you're Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or completely agnostic or atheist. But it is very easy and possible to have a spiritual experience and to see whatever your version of the divine looks like to you.
I love that. You basically can make it your own. And, especially with, I mean, of course, all of us are so different with different backgrounds. And I love that like you said, it's like not set to a certain religion or anything like that. Someone I know, this is where I start to really understand like how important breathing is. Like I told you, I tend to hold my breath. Not that I like to, but I tend to. Kind of like, like when your body's like sore and you just kind of feel like your back hurts or you just feel tight, breathing into your muscles and really feeling like you're releasing that tension. Like I started to understand like, wow, that really does help with just simple stretching, breathing. And I've dabbled with yoga in the past. and Pilates. And so that's why I was kind of like learning how to take things slow and just like really focus on the body. Because prior to that, I was doing more like high impact things, like kickboxing, and your adrenaline is high and you just feel like, like it's just different. It's much different from yoga, right? So I love that yoga really does, and just breathing, it really does help you relax.
Well, we could talk about breath work. I can talk about breath work until the cows come home, Shane. What it might be really interesting to do, would you like to do a little bit of breath work with me now? And I'll talk you through it. And maybe if you're listening to this, you can try this as well. How does that sound?
I would love that, especially since it kind of reminds you of like, those apps like Calm or Headspace, and you're doing like, so this is a live session. I am all for it. So yeah, let's do it.
Okay, well, what I might do is I think I might do 2 breath techniques with you, if that's okay. Now, the first one is a kind of little tool that you can whip out if you're ever feeling anxious or overwhelmed. It's kind of my go-to practice if ever I'm feeling, oh goodness, what's going on? If I'm, feeling stressed or anxious, this is my breathwork technique that I do all the time. And I'll give you an example of this. On Monday, I went for a root canal surgery.
Oh my goodness.
Which is the first time that I've had a root canal. So I was a bit nervous. I'm not like super nervous around dentists, and I don't have a huge kind of fear. But however, 2 hours of people drilling in your mouth is no.
It's unsettling. Yeah.
Whatever. I did this breathwork technique all the way through. And not only did I not feel pain, I mean, that was probably to do with the great anesthetics they gave me. Yeah. But I also had no pain when all the drugs wore off. And also the time went by in an absolute flash. So 2 hours, it was so strange because, as a facilitator, I teach this quite a lot. Yeah. And then sometimes I have to actually put it into practice myself. Right. I kind of do it as a little test just to see if it does work. And it really did, because that 2 hours that I was in that chair with all sorts of things being put in my mouth and injections and drills just went by in an absolute flash.
That is amazing. Like, I'm sure a lot of people could use this. And I mean, that's a great, like, testament to say, like, no matter what it is that you're going to be doing in your day, this works. And
it does work. Yeah. And this is a great technique because it's a secret technique, because no one will know that you're actually doing it. No one will be able to tell that you're doing it. It'll just be secret for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because, like, I feel like in yoga, if you're in a classroom and you're doing breathing, you assume, like, you feel like everyone's kind of looking at you kind of funny because you're like, but in reality, no one even cares. So yes, I love that you said that you're like, yeah, you could do it and no one would even know. So
no one will even know this little technique. Okay, so this is a technique called box breathing.
Box breathing, okay.
Okay, and it involves inhaling and then holding when you're full, exhaling and then holding when you're empty. So it kind of almost like makes the shape of a box. Okay. So we'll do it for about 2 minutes. Okay. I'll guide you through it. So maybe just give your shoulders a wiggle. Okay. Okay. So you can just settle and be still. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, find a space where you can be undisturbed for a couple of minutes. But once you've got it, you can do it anywhere, even if you're kind of doing something active at the same time. Okay. So let's inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold 3, 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4. Hold empty 2, 3, 4. Inhale 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3. Exhale 2, 3. Hold empty. Inhale, close your eyes and keep the count going yourself. Hold. Exhale. Now keep that count going. We'll be doing this for another 60 seconds. Now, wherever you are in your count, inhale and then exhale through the mouth. We'll do that twice more. Inhale through the nose. Once more. And then maybe just give yourself a little shake just to come back. So how do you feel now, Shane?
I feel like I just came out of a spa. Like after you've just been getting a massage or a facial or whatever spa service you get, that's what it felt like to me. Like my heart rate really did significantly go down. Yeah, because believe it or not, as excited as I am to do these interviews, I also get anxious too, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just want the show to go well. And then doing something like this during the show, it's so great, because now I'm like, okay, I feel even more collected. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much. I know so many people could benefit from that. Oh.
And you can do that for any length of time. I was doing it for 2 hours. You don't have to count to 4. You can count to 5 or 3, or you can count slow, or you can count quick. There's almost no contraindications with this. You can do whatever your health is or your physical well-being. It's absolutely fine to do.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. So with breathwork, okay, so so to become a breathwork facilitator, is there any sort of program that you have to go through to like learn all the fundamentals, or like how does one get started to become one?
Well, there is definitely a training course, and it's one of the most powerful, profound, life-changing things that you can do, because the relationship with your breath probably is the most important relationship that you're going to have in your life, because our breath connects us to that deepest, truest, highest, wisest self within us. There's no hiding from our breath. Anything that you think that you're ashamed of, or you want to let go, or anything that you're pretending about yourself, that will come out. So all those crazy voices in your head telling you things, all the foolishness, all the silliness, all the ridiculousness will all come out. All the fear and all the anxiety comes out. So yes, it's a training course. I trained with called Alchemy of Breath, which is a really big breathwork school. And then I launched my own breathwork school called Breathing Space. And now I run all sorts of different breathwork courses for all different levels. So I run introduction courses, free introduction courses. I run a foundation course if you want to go a bit deeper. And then I also run a facilitator training course. It's a 10-month journey.
Wow.
It's a deep commitment as well. And it sounds like it's just breathing, but to become a breathwork facilitator and to be able to hold space when people go into their deepest, tenderest, and most vulnerable spaces is something magical. And something really powerful that you can do. It's a life-changing journey for you, for the person who becomes a facilitator, but for everyone else that they come into contact with.
Oh, wow. I love that. And I can just imagine just even life coaches wanting to expand on their certifications and expertise and do this. So, because I honestly here in the US, I've never heard of a breathwork facilitator. So I was like, oh, that's really intriguing.
There's some good ones. There's some good ones in California, actually.
Wow. See, this is how much I don't know about. This is why I have you on the show, so I can learn from you and, connect with so many different people around the world. That's the beauty of this this podcast. Wow. So that's really great. So
would you like to try a different breathwork technique, perhaps something a bit more powerful?
Yes. If we want to dive deeper, let's do it, because I know I could really learn all this stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm going to teach you some conscious breathing, or using a conscious connected technique. And this is the main tool that I use in my transformative workshops.
Wow.
Now, it's fine to do this just for a couple of minutes. If you're going to do it for longer, you really should do it with a facilitator, especially for the first times that you do it. And there are some contraindications to this practice because it is so powerful. So you shouldn't really do this if you're in early or unstable pregnancy, or if you have a heart condition, or if you're schizophrenic or bipolar or on heavy antipsychotic medication. It doesn't mean it's not beneficial for those things, because it actually really is, but it just means it can be super powerful, and you really need to go very carefully if you've got any of those conditions. But for a couple of minutes, it's absolutely fine to teach the technique to you.
Yeah.
And so if you're on the recording, again, if you would like to try this, do breathe along with us, but find a space where you can be supported, either sitting or lying down for a couple of minutes, and you'll be undisturbed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, now what I think we'll do, Shane, I'm going to, the technique is powerful and unusual, and you won't do this technique in normal everyday life. I'll teach it to you quickly, but before we do the breath work itself, I'm going to ask you to maybe a very, very quick 30-second meditation, just to connect with something beforehand. But let's just talk about the technique first. So open your mouth really wide, okay? Like really wide, like you're going to the dentist wide, okay? That's it. Now we start taking full body breaths into every part of your body. Keep your mouth really wide. That's it. Now the third step is to keep your breath connected. Keep breathing with no pauses at the top or pauses at the bottom. And finally, we make it active. Inhale, then let go on the exhale. Let's take 3 more. One more. Now close your mouth and just gather yourself in for a second and just concentrate on what you're physically feeling at the moment, because even with just those few breaths, you'll start to feel something. Okay, and then give yourself a shake. Now, with just that, or maybe we took about 10 breaths there, maybe 20 breaths, could you start to feel physically how powerful that was there?
I felt myself feeling like, I don't know, like I grew bigger in a way. I was just like, whoa, like, it just kind of felt like almost empowering internally.
Yes, you will feel physically a lot. You'll feel tingling, hot and cold. You might feel energy rushes around your body. You may get a dry throat temporarily. All of those are fine to experience, and they will stop when you change the breathing.
Wow.
Okay, so would you like to do a 2-minute conscious breath work with me?
Man, I would love to, because it's funny when it comes to meditation, 2 minutes sounds like forever, but but that's what I think, but that's why it's so important, is to slow down. So I would love to, I am loving this.
Well, I sometimes call this meditation for people who can't meditate, because there isn't any of this kind of, you have to think about something and concentrate. All you're doing is breathing, and you'll be surprised at how quickly and it goes, and how easily you find it. Okay, so before we start, what I'd like you to do is just close your eyes and just breathe through your nose. And I would like you to just, on an inhale, take your awareness inside to a still, quiet place within. Maybe where your wisest, truest, highest self lives. And I would like you to think of maybe a challenge that you're facing in your life. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a situation. Maybe it's some feelings in your life. Maybe there's an emotion that you're not connecting to or not allowing yourself to feel. And when we start our breath work, I just want you to allow yourself to connect to that feeling, connect to that emotion, or maybe that challenge that you're facing, maybe that person. And we're going to use our breath work to really allow ourselves to feel and to see if anything comes up. Okay? So if you're doing this at home, please make sure you're in a supported position, and you're going to be undisturbed for a couple of minutes. So let's open your mouth really wide. That's it. Start taking full body breaths. Now keep your breath connected with no pauses at the top or the bottom. Keep your eyes closed if you can. Now really fill up on your breath. That's it. Pull on the inhale, let go on the exhale. And as you breathe, keep breathing. Drop into that challenge. Drop into those feelings. What is it that you need to feel? What is it that you're not allowing yourself to feel? Really connect to that as you breathe. Keep breathing deep, full body breaths, no pauses. That's it. Keep your mouth wide. Fill up on this amazing gift of air. What is it you need to feel? What is it you need to allow yourself to connect to? Is there an emotion? Is there a challenge in your life? All you have to do is to breathe and feel. Let's take 10 more breaths. And last one big breath. Now close your mouth. Breathe through your nose and put some pauses in your breath. And just allow yourself to feel for a few seconds. Just be aware of the changes that are happening in your body. Now blink your eyes open slowly. Give yourself a shake. And then maybe with your fingertips, just tap gently on your chest and your shoulders. This is a grounding technique to help bring us back. So, welcome back, Shane. That is just 3 minutes of conscious breathing. Now, normally we would do that for 30 minutes.
Wow.
Would set it to music, gently at first and then more powerfully. But even after 3 minutes, you will feel something physically, and you may even feel something internally. So I would love to hear a little bit about your experience of that 3-minute breath work.
Yeah. First, I felt like tingling in my shoulders and my arms. So that was one. I felt like in the first exercise, I was more on the warmer side. And this time I actually felt like chilly. I don't know if that means anything, but yeah, I felt that. And then I just kind of felt like that release, like all like the pent up things I feel inside, because you know this already. I hold my breath and I tense up, so I usually feel really tight in my muscles. So that kind of felt like I was like just letting it all out. It was like exerting it. So I feel like this type of exercise, like just I don't know, like at one point, because I've done like hypnotherapy and I've done things like that, and there were some parts where it kind of felt like out of body, like you're just kind of like expanding. It was really interesting. I can't even fully pinpoint how I felt during that, but it was amazing.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Amazing. You felt that release.
Yes.
And you felt different changes in temperature and energy.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, just a few minutes of breathing, what a difference that will make.
Right. I'm a firm believer now. After that, because I hear it all the time with people that, you know, tell you to breathe. And I've tried the meditation apps. I've tried doing that. But for some reason, it's like, I feel like a facilitator. See, so I'm someone who likes to be in like a guided, class.
Sure,
I
of
love
course.
that versus like checking in on an app. It just doesn't work the same for me. So now I can see, like, I see the value and why having a breathwork facilitator is key if you want to master this type of thing. So thank you so much. Like, this is my favorite episode so far, I gotta say, because I'm like really implementing what you're teaching. So I mean, that's why I started this, was to be able to learn from people and to take these lessons and apply them to life. So this has just been so awesome. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if you told me, but how long have you been doing breathwork facilitating?
So I qualified as a facilitator about 2.5 years ago, and that's when I set up Breathing Space. And that's so really I've been facilitating for about 3 years. But before I was a breathwork facilitator, I'm a middle-aged guy now, so I've had a lot of life experience before this. I was a high school teacher for 15 years, so I'm very used to facilitating all types of classes, sizes, kids, difficult kids,
Oh my.
from small groups to big kids. So um, yeah, I've had a lot of experience in holding space and helping people before I started using breathwork.
Wow. And I just think about, like, as myself on my own, journey, like, where could I have benefited from this, really, like, in the start. And I think high school, I always talk about how high school is just such a crazy time, in your development, and you're learning and you're on the brink of becoming an adult. And I know if I would have learned these types of techniques and had these tools, it would have helped me a lot during that time. So, I mean, I guess, like, this is a question. Who was usually like your typical client? Like, do you work with like all ages or mainly adults?
Yeah, I don't do conscious breathing with people under the age of 16. It's just too powerful for them at their age, and they're still developing. But I have worked a lot with vulnerable children from really young, actually, with box breathing, for instance, or coherence breathing, which is another very simple breath technique. Because you're right, high school years, from the ages of 11 to 18, or even beyond, is one of the most stressful times that we have in
Yeah.
our lives. So any tools that you can give then are really important. And then other clients, I specialize in running group breathworks. So,
Mhm.
we'll have anything from 5 to 15 to 50 to even, hundreds of people in a breathwork together.
Wow.
Now, I used to do these live, and it's an incredible experience to experience a live breathwork when you've got a group of people here in a room doing conscious breathing, because it can seem crazy. You'll have people who are crying and are releasing grief. You'll
Wow.
have people who are laughing hysterically. You'll have people who are having visions of God. And you'll have people who are maybe allowing themselves to experience anger or rage. So, and often this is vocally expressed as well. So, in some ways, it's like walking into the most craziest atmosphere where people are really allowed to feel these things. Because in our normal day to day lives, we're never allowed to cry or
Right.
laugh hysterically or get angry.
To let it go.
So to let it go, exactly, that's it. So in this space, we allow ourselves. And when you breathe like this, you don't have to do anything apart from breathe, and it will happen. It's just like magic. So I used to do a lot of these group sessions, and so I would get all sorts of people. Generally, I would find the females are generally a bit more open to it, because they're more interested into self-exploration and
Right.
internal. They're sometimes a bit more, not always, they can be a little bit more in touch, or at least willing to go there. But people of all ages, generally, people who are over 30, and that's just because people in their 20s are still developing and still learning.
Right. Right.
Not always the same. I've had some of my best facilitators that I've trained actually have been in their 20s. So people will hear the call when they are ready at different times in their life. My oldest, I breathed with my mother actually, and she's in her 80s, and that was a truly beautiful thing. And my oldest facilitator that I'm training at the moment is in her 60s. So you get a whole range of spread, and you'll get people who come along for physical well-being or for respiratory health. You'll get people who come along for emotional release. They'll get some people who come along, just they have no idea, but they feel suddenly called to study breath work. So really all sorts of things and all sorts of reasons will bring people to their own breath.
Wow. That That's incredible. Like, I love that. Yeah, it just goes back to how you were saying, like, breath work is for everyone. Like, we could all use this no matter where we are in our lives, our journeys. And I mean, I'm definitely interested in really like getting used to applying this to my life. I guess like another thing is, like, before COVID, were you teaching like in person, like in classes, like in your local area?
Yes, I was. I'm from England, you may tell from my accent, but I live in Canada now. I've been here 6 months, and I moved over here because my wife's from Canada, and I
Oh
thought we'd try
wow.
living over here. But I used to run a lot of workshops in the UK where I'm from, but also retreats. I've been running transformative retreats now for a few years, and I ran a lot of retreats. That was my main business for about a year and a half. I ran 20 retreats in 2 years, and they were really it's crazy actually. I
Yeah.
started off just running a retreat in a tiny little centre, almost like a church hall nearby me, and then within two years I was featured in the Guardian newspaper, which is one of the big national newspapers in England, as one of the top 10 well-being retreats to go on in Europe, which was how that happened in
Yeah,
such a short space of time was crazy.
that's
But you
amazing.
know you're doing something right when it's easy and it's
Yeah,
joyful, and
you just
everything flowed.
come.
It just came.
Right. No, I feel like that's when you found, your real gift and your calling, when those types of opportunities, that abundance just comes to you. And yeah, I was going to say, because so I live in Silicon Valley, and before COVID, this city was fast. Everyone was just work, 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 corporate, all the biggest tech companies are here.
Mm.
And like the first thing I thought about before you mentioned the retreats is like, this type of like workshop would be amazing for people who work in corporate, and
Oh
like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Because they are in high stress jobs, and they're just constantly on the grind. And to, you know, create space, like how you mentioned, create space to breathe and to really just be one with yourself. I feel like they would benefit that so much. Their stress levels would reduce significantly, right? Because it's just the work, the lifestyle that we have, unfortunately. And I don't know how it was in the UK, but here the way people work, like the home life balance is just so like imbalanced. Like there
Mm.
really isn't. Now we kind of have no choice, where everyone is working from home, so it's kind of forcing them to like get used to being around, in tune with their home life. But yeah, man, I wish I would have known about your retreats, because I would have gone, because I love traveling and I love like doing all types of things. Like even before COVID, I planned on doing one of those weekend retreats out in like nature, and just kind
Mm.
of unplugging. Like I told my family, I was like, you know what? I just want to go away for like a week. No electronics. You can't contact me. Like I just want to go and just be, in a quiet space. Because when I'm home, I've been working remotely for 8 years now, and I always have my laptop in front of me. I always have like a phone or an iPad. And sometimes it's nice to just unplug. And
Mm.
I mean, the best thing to include in that is also with your breathing. So that's wonderful. I guess because I want to ask this mainly for a family member, because someone I know has high blood pressure. Have you seen any, I guess like, I mean, I'm sure the positive results, but have you seen it help people with that type of condition with the breathing? Because they're always so amped up and like, you know?
Um, I can actually speak from personal experience here, Shane.
Wow.
Yes, my blood pressure used to be kind of 140 or 145 regularly.
Wow.
Now it's usually in the 120s. 120 over sort of 85 is my normal. And one of the things that I do is, before I do take my blood pressure reading, I will sit down and I'll do 2 minutes of box breathing that I taught you earlier. And almost without doubt, well, what I tend to do is I do a reading first when I'm normal, and then I'll do a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
and you will be surprised at how quickly it drops. And it doesn't have to be box breathing. You can do almost any conscious breathwork technique. Coherence breathing, which is just counting in and out to the same number, so 5 in and 5 out, or alternate nostril breathing is another one. Your blood pressure will start to drop. So you know how to. I've taught you how to do box breathing now.
Yes.
Um, if you want to teach that to your family member, and just try it out, experiment with it. There's no harm in trying this, for sure.
Right. Wow. That's so great, because I mean, I mean, part of like obviously holistic ways of living is, you know, you can change your nutrition, you can change your mindset, but I love to think of it as it's all, you know, a domino effect. You know, if one thing's in balance, the other thing will be in balance too. And it all comes into play. So, so yeah, because this family member of mine, she started drinking. I mean, this has nothing to do with breath work, but she started doing more juicing, like with beets juice, because beets juice helps with your cardiovascular, is what I've discovered through just reading and talking to functional medicine doctors. But she used to be on high blood pressure medication, and for years, I believe it was a long time. And just recently, she was able to get off of them. Thank goodness, because you know the side effects and everything that comes with those types of medications. So I think if she were just to implement the breath work on top of that, oh, like she would be good to go. So I'm definitely going to pass this information along, and she's going to watch this episode anyway, so she'll see. Since we'll have the video on YouTube and the audio version on, you know, all the listening platforms. But yeah, that was incredible. Where can people find you? Like online? Yeah, tell us where people can go to look at your work.
Sure. My website is makesomebreathingspace.com, and on there you'll find some links to my courses. So I've got a free breathwork course called Take a Breath, which has got the kind of the basic introduction techniques, including box breathing that we did a bit earlier. And that's an online course that you can do in your own time at your own pace. If you want to go a bit deeper, there's a foundation course, which has got the more powerful techniques. That's a 4-week online course, but there are live seminars for that, which you can join as well. I have those every week on Wednesday afternoons. And then if you really want to go deep, then there is also facilitator training, which is a 10-month commitment. But there's other stuff on there as well. I've also got a free course on breathwork for lung health. So if you're interested in just the purely physical or respiratory benefits of breathwork, you can do that. There's a prenatal breathing space, which one of my colleagues has recorded, which are breathwork techniques if you're on a pregnancy journey as well. So there's quite a lot on my website. There's also
that's wonderful.
If you want to know about the big personalities in breathwork, I have a YouTube show as well called Inspiring Interviews, where I interview famous breathwork facilitators as well. So you can always find out some of the personalities in breathwork as well, because breathwork is comparatively unknown at the moment. Not many people know about it, but it is coming. It's going to be like the next yoga. It's going to be yoga 2.0 somehow, I describe it, because it's so powerful and it's so accessible. Everyone can do this, and it's essentially free once you know the techniques how to do it.
Right.
So it's coming. I describe it as meditation for people who can't meditate, or also therapy for people who don't do therapy or who don't want to do therapy. And I also call it plant medicine for those who don't do drugs. So
wonderful.
I've had many of my clients say that this is like ayahuasca or Cambo, but with no side effects, no throwing up or 8-hour trips.
Yeah, I actually just learned about ayahuasca. I'm so sorry. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correct. Ayahuasca? Is that
That's correct?
Yeah. I saw it on a show and I was like, oh my gosh, but they kind of go into this whole, it's a different process. And I mean, the only other breathing thing that I've heard of is Wim Hof. Wim Hof breathing.
He's one of the big breath superstars, actually. So he uses a technique that's similar to the conscious breathing that I taught you, but then he marries it with cold exposure. Cold water swimming, which has enormous benefits, physical benefits on your immune system, for instance. So he uses the breath to help support cold exposure, which is very, very beneficial.
Wow. Yeah, that's something I'm kind of interested in trying at some point, just because I'm naturally a very cold person. So the thought of like purposely making myself cold in a cold shower, I'm like, I don't know about that. But I'm open to all things, and I'm willing just to try it, because I just love that there's so many different natural healing methods that we can implement in our lives, and it doesn't cost anything, and then you reap all the benefits. So that it's amazing. But yeah, thank you for sharing all of your knowledge, your wisdom, and where we can all find you with learning more about breathwork and, your guided breathing techniques. I did want to ask, so do you have recordings where it's like kind of like on the apps like Calm or Headspace, where people can just follow along with
yes. So on the online courses, I don't it's not an app, but it's an online platform that I use. And yes, all of the courses have guided practices. So you'll see a recording of me guiding you along through box breathing, for instance, or Sufi breathing, or conscious breathing, or breath of joy, or the many techniques of breathwork that there are.
Oh, that is so great. My gosh. Well, I have loved this episode. Like I mentioned earlier, I learned so much, and I just want to thank you so much for your time and for coming onto the show. I'm sure our listeners will love to implement this and see how relaxed they'll feel after listening to us too. So thank you again so much, and thank you all to everyone that's been listening, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Shane. This has been an absolute delight to be on the show with you. You've got such a lovely, warm personality. It's felt like I've been talking to an old friend.
Oh my God, that is such a great compliment. You know, I really want to make my guests feel welcome and at home, like you're just talking to a friend. And even though I've never met you in person, this has just been great. So I'm so happy to connect with you, and I'm sure in the future we will continue on, which I want to mention really briefly. So I'm creating a Facebook community group where our insiders, our listeners, can connect with all of the guests that have been on the show, so they can find you quickly in that way, and you can connect with our listeners in that space. So yes, other than reaching out to you directly, they can also find you in our group. So so I'll have that all set up. But thank you again so much, Benedict. It's been a pleasure.
Is that okay? Just to tell me a little bit about you and your journey with doing this podcast.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can definitely cover that. So for me, the reason why I started this podcast was because I was on my own holistic journey since around 2015. So I basically started with, I had multiple issues. It was between gut, digestive, and food sensitivities. So because it kind of was a domino effect, it was like one thing after another after another. The diagnoses started back in 2012. So from 2012 to about 2017, I was on a 5-year journey of trying to figure out what happened, because I was just like, I was really healthy growing up, and then all of a sudden I was just sick. And doctors couldn't figure out why. So then when I moved back home to California, I decided, you know what, I should see a functional medicine doctor, because they'll tell me things that Western medicine won't. And so from that point, you know, I did a bunch of testing, and that's when we figured out, like, oh my gosh, like, it's all in your gut, you know, you need to work on your liver and like things like that. So from at that point, that's when I really dove deep into learning all things holistic, trial and error over the years. And now I'm in the best health condition I've ever been. And so I felt this calling to start this podcast to, you know, help those that were kind of where I was back then, where I didn't know where to start. I wanted to learn and heal, but how? And so I figure starting this and giving a platform to people like you who could share things that you can't just typically find on your own online. And that way people can learn and really empathize with our journeys. So that's why I started this. Is just
how many guests have you had on now? How many shows have you done?
So overall, I have 50 guests that have signed on, and you are number 4 that I've interviewed live. And I still, every week I have like a couple, I have like 5 to 6 people that I'm talking to. So I'm like slowly building. Yeah, this will launch in the middle of August or end of August. Yeah.
Well, if I'm only the 4th person that you've done, you are a natural at this, Shane. You know, and you really have a very engaging manner, and you know, you hold space really well. And it's not an easy task to do, because I've been in the other chair as well. I've interviewed people, so I know how hard it is to kind of just look after the technical things and be engaged. And I think the big thing that you do is you're really engaged. You know, I felt that I was talking to you as a person you wanted to know, and you were interested. And you know, that's a rare gift. Not many interviewers have that.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And you know, it's funny because I don't have experience with, you know, being a host in anything, or I'm just an extroverted person that loves to learn. So it just worked out. But no, thank you so much for that. And yeah, over time, as I talk to more people and get the ball rolling, it's going to be great. I know I'll get over my jitters. Yeah.
Well, what I'd like to do, Shane, to say thank you for inviting me on and letting me kind of be a guest. I'm going to give you a free invitation onto my foundation course, so you can come and try out some of the techniques as well. I'll forward the link to the Take a Breath First, which is a free introduction, which is so you can just go through that. You can do that in an hour or so at your own time, and then when you're ready, you can try the foundation course as a gift from me.
That you are incredible. Can I just say that is so awesome, because especially I'm a sponge. I really do like just absorbing whatever information I can. That way I can help others. That's another thing, is I want to help people find ways to heal without feeling like they're stuck with whatever they've been diagnosed with or whatever they have. And so, yeah, in a way, I just want to, inspire others and help them.
Are you free on Thursday afternoons?
Thursday afternoons, typically, yeah.
Well, I run a free workshop, free breathing space on Thursdays, where we do a full conscious breathe.
Okay.
And I run that every Thursday. It's my online breathing space.
Got it. Thursday. What time zone are you in again? Because I'm in Pacific.
I'm on Mountain Time, so I think am I 1 hour ahead of you?
Well, I think Mountain right now, it might be the same, because they don't do the
What time is it for you right now?
2:55.
Okay, no, it's 3:55 here, so I'm an hour ahead of you. Okay. So that will be it's 1:30. It'll be 12:30 for you. I started it in the UK, so it runs on UK time. So it's 8:30 UK time. So I think that will be 12:30 for you.
12:30. Yeah, I mean, I would love to block that off and just know that on Thursdays I have an appointment. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds.
Well, Shane, I'll try and fill in that email now, and I'll include detail, and then and I'll send that back to you with some of the details of those, and then you should see another email from me via Rizuku, which is my online learning platform, inviting you onto the foundation course.
Amazing. And I call myself a forever student, because I like I said, I love learning. So it doesn't matter what it is. Like I have certifications and learnings from like all different types of stuff, just because I want to learn. So, oh my gosh, I thank you so much. This is such a gift, and I can't wait. I can't wait to get started in learning that.
All right, Shane. Well, please drop me a note whenever the podcast drops, and I'll share it everywhere as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely keep you posted once everything goes live. Yeah, I'll keep you updated.
All right, Shane. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.